So, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing good.
How was the week? How's music production going?
So yeah, I just told you off camera that I'm procrastinating as usual. So I recorded the other day we recorded a session here, and I have like, I don't know, 8 or 10 voice takes that I need to align. And I was looking at it and I said,
yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah. So then I'm procrastinating. But yeah, I mean, it's something is happening, you know.
Okay.
It's always something is always better than nothing. So
how many songs do you have in the pipeline right now?
So there is 1 and 2 which are old, like old songs that I'm sort of using as training grounds to record stuff on my own at a higher level, so that I'm confident enough that I can release them. So I'm sort of burning old songs for that, right? And I'm also I've always, the way that I wrote the songs back in, I don't know, I wrote these songs 2011 or something. And you know, when you're writing a song, you kind of go like Paul McCartney, you know, you start talking gibberish and you're talking scrambled eggs and stuff, and it was always in English, right? Mm-hmm. So I would always sort of hear the mumbling in English in my head, but you know, living in Brazil and everything sort of had to be in Portuguese, but I always wanted them to be in English. So this is sort of that. It's half practicing production and half sort of doing some of these songs a little bit of justice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the record has, I think it's 11 songs, the first one. Out of those, I would say maybe 2 or 3 are sort of, oh man, I wish I could re-record these songs again with, and that's what I'm sort of doing. So, and then after that, I have quite a few, actually. I mean, you have to sit down and sort of evolve the ideas, but I would say about 5 or 6.
Okay, that's cool. So a whole other record after these ones are done, essentially.
Yeah. So, but the way that you do it nowadays is there is no record, right? So you release one, and then you release the other one with the other next to it. So you know, you gotta play the Spotify game.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's take, since we already kind of dove into the topic of music and what you're working on, let's go back a little bit into how you grew up. What was your childhood like musically? What was playing around the house? What were your like main influences growing up? And yeah,
I mean, my family is very musical, especially my dad's on my dad's side. Like my grandma, she was actually a classically trained pianist, piano player, pianist, I don't know.
Pianist.
And she was also
sounds dirty.
Yeah, and then she was also classically lyric singer, so like a Italian opera singer. Mm-hmm. And we always had instruments lying around the house. So we had, I remember, very, very like 4 or 5. I remember, like when you're tiny, you remember this huge piano. So we had a big piano in the house, which was just, you know, regular piano. And my dad is also really into music, so to the point where, to this day, he still owns all of his music. So he has a hard drive with all the MP3 songs and everything, and he has a like huge library. I don't know, 20,000 songs or something like that.
That's cool.
And he goes, it spans everything. So it goes from Paul McCartney to Pink Floyd. He was really, really into Pink Floyd. I remember he was really into Pink Floyd when I was growing up. And Michael Jackson, he was really into Michael Jackson. And he also loves brega, you know, Brazilian brega, which is kind of like, to explain to the non-Portuguese speaking audience, it's kind of like, how do you explain brega?
It's kind of I think the literal translation would be sort of phony.
But it's like sob music, you know. It's music for people who are, you know, the the lover left the guy, and he's sort of very, very hurt, and he'll write. And it's a very specific thing. And yeah, he was really into. I remember during my teenage years. So he collects CDs, right? So he still has a huge collection of CDs and actually vinyl as well. So I remember one day just going through stuff that he had, just because I was really looking for something new to listen to. And MP3, like Spotify didn't exist. MP3 was still kind of hard, so kind of giving away my age there. but yeah, I remember I came out of his room with like a pile this high with everything, like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd. I remember the Division Bell. I was really into the Division Bell for a long while, and a lot of Beatles.
Great
and
record.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of it. And then growing up, they just put me in music school whenever they could. So I can't remember a time when I wasn't playing something. So when I was really young, I started playing piano really young. And piano lessons, they were really trying to, I think they were really trying to get me to become like a super amazing piano player. So I was doing that, but then I started to sort of look to the guitar for some reason. I guess just from listening to music from like around the house, and a lot of it was guitar music and rock and stuff, and so I really got interested in learning the guitar when I think I was 15 or 16, and he would always ask me what I wanted for a birthday present, right? I would always give him like super expensive ideas that he wouldn't get. But one year I said, I want a guitar, and he actually gave me the guitar.
Nice.
So that's when it all started. And the funniest thing happened because I was so dumb that I didn't know that you needed an amplifier to plug the guitar into. I thought that the sound that I was hearing in the records was you plug the guitar into something and that's the sound, Yeah. But then I learned that, you need to plug it in, and there needs to be an amplifier, and then there's a microphone, and this is what I'm listening to. And then I asked him, hey, can you get me an amplifier? And he said, no, the guitar is enough. You have everything you need. So I was, I had a solid body guitar, and I could barely hear it. So that's when I sort of started to hack listening to myself playing guitar on the computer. So I plugged the guitar into the computer, and that's when I got into sort of music production and whatnot. And that's a whole another can of worms. But yeah, basically since always, I've always been in bands. The first band that I joined, I was 12, I think.
Okay. And
that's when I sort of got bitten by the music bug for sure. When I first walked into a studio, I was a little kid, and I saw the drums and the amplifiers, and everything was super loud, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
This is the shit.
This is it. This is what I want to do. So yeah, I mean, and then it just went on from there. I started joining bands, and then I started writing music, and then I couldn't find anybody that was willing to sing my songs, and then I said, fuck it, I'm gonna learn how to sing. And then I really got into singing. So eventually the voice became my main instrument. But yeah, since ever, basically. Cool. That.
Well, and I mean, from the stuff that you have out, like the grunge, alt rock influences are very clear, but I always kind of have this, I can always hear like a little hint of Brazilian music outside of brega, but like some of like the classic rock stuff and from Brazil in the way you write and the way you put things together. From the Brazilian rock scene, is there anything that kind of stands out that you think is a big influence in your writing?
Yeah, so I had multiple phases. So the big stint that I had with most of my life, I think I've listened to mainly international music. Nowadays, it's mostly North American, British music in English, but I had a long stint where I was listening to a lot of Japanese rock because when I was a teenager, I was really into anime. So Dragon Ball Z. I still watch Dragon Ball Z. Like I found a Dragon Ball Z abridged on YouTube. That's my thing.
The classic.
So I got really into Japanese music, and for years and years, so lots of Japanese rock bands. Stuff like Siam Shade. Have you ever seen the Visual Kei? These Japanese bands that they put costumes on. They look like vampires and stuff. It's really funny. So Malice Miser. I never knew how you say it in English. Malice Miser, Lorraine. A lot of these random Japanese weird Visual Kei things. So that was a phase. And the other phase that I went through was I had a really my wife is over here, so I'm gonna start talking about the exes. So I had an ex-girlfriend that she was really into Brazilian music.
Okay.
And I really didn't like Brazilian music for some reason at that point in time. But then she broke up with me. And for some reason, I decided that, hey, if I become this really cult, like smart guy that's really into a lot of fancy Brazilian music, maybe she'll like me again. So I started listening to a lot of Chico Buarque, Lo Borges, João Gilberto. That didn't last very long. I still like Chico Buarque a lot, especially the way that he writes and what he does with words and everything. I think he's a really creative guy. I got really into Tim Maia years later, not because of my exes, just because of just random music exploration. So I got really into Tim Maia for some reason.
I got really into him right when I moved to Berlin for like randomly as well.
So it happens. There was actually I go through Brazilian music comes at me in waves, you know. So I had a phase when I went to live in the U.S. For the foreign exchange thing. Mm-hmm. I was desperate to go back to Brazil, and then I started listening to a lot of Brazilian rock bands. So Capital Inicial, Legião Urbana, Paralamas do Sucesso. I got really into Paralamas do Sucesso, really deep really into it. Biquíni Cavadão, and then I went off to Jota Quest. Mm-hmm. My friends still make fun of me now to this day because I really like Jota Quest. I think they're amazing.
They're an amazing band.
They're an amazing band. Come on,
it's
an amazing band. Even Rogério, Flauzino, he's a great singer.
Well, my wife is gonna like fight with me because of this, but because she really loves his version of one Disney song, and it's like Treasure Planet. I really love the original song because it's the guy from Goo Goo Dolls that did it, and she's always like, no, the Brazilian version is better. I'm like, but they're both great.
But yeah, and another thing, I also remember a moment when I went to Ceará Music. You know, Ceará Music was the only festival that we had in Fortaleza with rock bands. And I have a very vivid memory of walking into the area where everybody was and Biquíni Cavadão was playing.
Oh, okay.
And they, back then, they were really energetic. So they were jumping around and the guy was spinning the microphone around. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, they're a great live band.
Yeah. So yeah, those are kind of the things that I like for Brazilian music. The things that really influenced me for a while, I would say those were the main ones. So Chico Buarque, at a very very low level because my lyrics in Portuguese are really stupid in my opinion. But I was trying.
But I can one of the bands that you mentioned really makes sense because I can really hear the Paralamas do Sucesso in kind of like
The
a
drums.
little bit of the nature of it is
The drums.
it's there.
The drums.
So that's cool.
The drums. Who's the drummer again? I actually met them.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, we can cut off this part because people are gonna hate us for not knowing who the drummer.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, all of that being said, I know that you're also really into electronic music.
Oh, yeah.
So lately than a few years back. So how was that introduced to you, and what are you listening to electronically?
I fully blame Radiohead.
All right.
Fully blame Radiohead. So yeah, when I was 20 something, I had a like a grunge phase. So I was listening to a lot of Audioslave, a lot of Pearl Jam, a lot of Soundgarden, and a lot of Nirvana. And I got into that because I was really into Foo Fighters, which you can probably hear in the stuff that I write. But for some reason, I landed on Radiohead. I don't quite remember why. And I have back then I used to have a thing where I would pick out bands, and I liked to. Oh, I remember why. I remember why I got into Radiohead, because I was really into Muse, and I was watching an interview, and I think Matthew Bellamy mentioned that one of the biggest influences was Radiohead. I was like, Radiohead? Because I remember Radiohead, the Gleam Plastic Water.
Like everyone just remembers like Creep.
It was like Creep and Fake Plastic Trees, and I was like, Radiohead. What's this guy doing with radio? Why is he listening to Radiohead? And then I kind of gave it a chance again, because I listened to Radiohead when I was a teenager, and I was a 20-something, and I was really into researching bands and trying to find new influences and everything. I was really taking it really seriously at the time. Mm-hmm. So I gave Radiohead a chance, and I listened to Pablo Honey, and that was kind of meh. And then I went into the bands, and that was pretty amazing. Really, really good rock record. And then OK Computer was more into, acoustic-ish, Brit-ish rock, less alternative, more Brit rock. But then I landed on Kid A. And that record. Just, when I put it on and I started listening to Everything in Its Right Place, it's the first song, it was like something clicked in my mind. And then I remember listening to that album for months. That's all I listened to. And it was like Tom York came up to me and said, "Hey man, stop listening to that. Listen to this shit instead," And then when I get really into artists, I go after who influenced them. So I was reading a lot of interviews and watching interviews from Radiohead, and Tom York, he was sort of, he had an electronic music phase. So he was talking about stuff like Aphex Twin, Autechre, and then I got into Aphex Twin a little bit and Autechre a little bit. And about that time, Spotify was starting to get really smart. Mm-hmm. And then I think it kind of got that I was going through this electronic music phase, and it started just
blasting you with
blasting me with
suggestions.
And then I eventually landed on Bonobo, Simon Green. Mm-hmm. But he's an amazing guy, amazing producer. The things he does with electronic music is, in my opinion, world class. I mean, he is world class, and he's playing everywhere. He wins awards left and right. But yeah, I mean, and then I started when I moved to Berlin.
It's like perfect time to get electronic.
It was exactly. And then when I moved to Berlin, I think I got even more interested, just because now I get the chance to actually see some of these people. So then I started listening to a lot of Ben Böhme and Christian Löffler. Who else? Kelly Lee Owens. She's really good. I got really into Kelly Lee Owens, and she's playing really. She's gonna play here soon. I really want to see her. Tycho. Who else? Chiasmos. We actually went to see Chiasmos the other day. It was really really amazing. So yeah, and
where did he play?
it was Columbia Halle, I think. Columbia Halle, right? Chiasmos, yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
The reason I bring the electronic music up is because when we first met, I actually thought you were all about electronic music. I had no idea about the rock background. And it was only like maybe a year after that like you started like posting about this one song that you were recording, and then we ended up working together on it. It was like it was a cool surprise to find out.
Yeah, I was actually trying to get into that for a while. I was sort of tired of like guitar music and writing guitar music because I'm a terrible guitar player, right? So I only know how to do like 2 or 3 things, and when you're writing, you start to repeat yourself. So that's why I kind of got bored with it. And electronic music gives you a lot of possibility because it's computer music, you know. So I can stop, I can actually go through and write everything that I want to do exactly. So that kind of opens up more possibilities. But
has that changed at all the way you write now? Now that you've kind of come back a little bit into guitar music, has it influenced the way you approach writing at all?
You mean electronic music?
Yeah, like having learned the electronic, just like scene and how to produce electronic music to some extent, does it influence the way you approach writing guitar music nowadays?
It's hard to say because even before when I was producing a lot of rock music, I was using Ableton Live.
Okay.
So,
yeah. All right.
So it's hard to say. The convenient thing is that you can just create the little loops, and then a lot of my songwriting is loop based, you know, and so I'll just come up with a groove and using, you know, the bass or the drums or something, and then I'll just play on top of it until I play something that I like, basically, and it'll kind of evolve from there. But it's hard to say. I don't have like a formula, like a go-to methodology. Like I'm gonna sit down and write a song. There is no one way that I do it. Okay. So it's hard. It's really hard to say. I'd say maybe. I don't know.
All right. Cool. Just moving on to a different topic, kind of a tough topic, I guess. Last year, especially, you went through a bit of a rough patch with long COVID.
Still going through it.
Yeah. I mean, you're feeling better though, right? Compared to the way things were last year. How was that experience? And like, you're still kind of getting over it, but how has been the progression of long COVID, and how has that impacted the way you make music? And now that you're kind of slowly coming out of it, what can be expected?
That's so last year was hands down the worst year of my life. I mean, it's this is going to turn into a little bit of a therapy session now because right. That's a very 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 sensitive topic.
That's what producers are for.
Yeah. But and I mean, the role that music played last year in my life was the role that it always has, is sort of anchoring me a little bit, you know, and just keeping me sane a little bit, and keeping me I don't want to say focused, but really grounded, you know. And for the longest time, I had kind of abandoned music. And it was funny that the year that I sort of decided to reactivate the band was the same year that I got this thing, right? And I'm still kind of figuring out why, but it was like a sudden surge of urgency, that I had, that I need to get back to this, because I think that I realized that my health is really fragile. Everybody's health is really fragile, and life is, in general, is very fragile, and if you waste time just doing the things that the system wants you to do, so society and capitalism and everything. I don't want to go there, but if that's all you're doing in your life, it's a very sad life,
and you're not living.
Yeah, right? It's a very sad life.
Existing. It's
a very sad life, So I think that's what happened. It was like it's so fragile, your stability, your health, your life is so fragile, and there's no real reason for you to not do the things that you like to do because of this or that, and you can always find a way to do the things that you like to do, and the things that do you good, and the things that bring you peace. And for me, music, it's really a lot of things, right? It's therapy. It's keeping my mind active. I approach it kind of like a puzzle, when I'm writing music. It's kind of like I'm creating a problem for myself. You create this tiny kernel of an idea, and you think about, how can I build this up and build it up and build it further so that it becomes a finished song. And the process is really fun for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that music was really important in keeping my mind busy and not thinking bullshit,
Yeah.
So I would say probably that. I'll talk to my therapist and see what she thinks.
But it's a good way to deal with it, and I think especially because whenever, unfortunately, it's very easy for us to take things for granted, and whenever we are faced with somewhat of a health issue that's out of our control to some extent, it's like it just kind of puts things in perspective, and it's cool when you have an outlet like music to be able to channel some good energy into it, and it definitely helps in the long term as well.
Yep.
So that's cool. It's cool that it did that for you.
Yeah, still is. I mean, I do have a song about long COVID. So one of the songs that's in the pipeline is about long COVID.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm still sort of mentally preparing to finish that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Cool, man. For this year, for 2025, what are your plans?
Just release as many songs as I can, basically. I'm also, because Verona doesn't exist, right? Mm-hmm. It's a band, but it's only me. It used to be a band back when I used to live in Fortaleza, and even then it was kind of it was rough because the members were changing all the time, and there was never a really stable
lineup.
Yeah, there was never really a really stable lineup. And one of the things that I really want to do this year, which is something that I wanted to do last year, but I couldn't because of the disease, and it's hard to make commitments when you don't know if you're gonna be able to to stand up, But one of the things that I want to do this year is actually find people who want to play, who are available. We have a lot of friends, but they're all busy. So that's one thing that I want to do. But the main plan is just to release music. Just keep releasing, keep recording, keep writing, and keep releasing. I kind of want to build my Spotify up,
Okay.
and then I think it's gonna make it easier to find people, because if it's just, hey, I'm a singer, trust me. If you have like a little bunch of songs, I think it's easier.
A catalog essentially that you can say, hey, this is what I do. Interested? Cool. And well, I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to find people to jam with here, because it's packed with people doing the same.
Everybody's busy though. Everybody's
especially drummers.
Yeah.
Every
Oh yeah. I know.
drummer is like plays in 3 different bands and.
Yeah. So the drummer is the harder spot for sure. For sure.
Cool, man. Well, I think to wrap up, I have a couple of just like fun, sort of rapid fire questions. One is, who's in your opinion like an underrated artist that you think deserves more recognition? Could be any genre, any scene, anything that pops to mind.
That's a hard one. I'm gonna go with Mute Math. You know Mute Math?
No.
Mute Math is I don't even know where they're from, but they're a really great band. They're really, really creative. They're really, really original. I really love the things that they do with like how they write guitars and how they incorporate keys in the songs. The guy sings really well, but for some reason they never got really big. They got their songs in some TV shows and stuff, and they were really big. Like, they weren't really big. They were. It was looking like they were gonna be really big. They played festivals and stuff, but then they just sort of vanished for some reason. I was really into them. I still am really into them. But for some reason they vanished. I wish more people would listen to Mute Math. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. If there was an artist that you could collaborate with, and like write a song with, who would it be?
And not embarrass myself in the process?
No, that's not an option.
Oh man. I'm gonna be really boring and say Tom York. I'm sure he's really, really hard to work with. I'm sure he's a pain, but I really, really want to spend. I really wish I could spend an afternoon with that guy. Just see what his studio is like and see his process. It doesn't. I don't even need to collaborate with him. Just sit down and watch. Just want to watch him do his thing. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What is currently your favorite plugin, piece of gear, whatever it is that you're using a lot in the process of writing these songs and recording these songs?
My favorite piece of gear is the Apollo.
The Apollo,
for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
The Apollo and the ecosystem, right? The way that because I wasn't aware. I was always like, why are people paying $1,000 for a stupid sound card? You know, you can get the same thing from Focusrite for $100 and does the same thing. But the way that it simulates the preamps and you can actually hear the difference, and
even just their clean stuff is super high quality as well.
Yeah.
Monitoring for conversion is
and but my situation is really stupid because I'm coming from a Behringer, never know Behringer, right? I'm coming from a Euphoria UMC 22, and then I went from that to an Apollo. So
that's a big jump.
Yeah. It's like I was riding a scooter, and now I'm driving a Lamborghini. So, and I actually ran the tests, right? So I played the guitar on the Behringer, and then I played the same thing on the Apollo, and it's just night and day, man. The voice, the compressors, the preamps, everything is really good. I'm just blown away by the thing. Plugin. I don't know. My plugins are really boring. I use the same stuff everybody uses. Let me think of a Transit. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
Andrew Huang, shout out. Really good stuff. Baby Audio, but it's really convenient. Okay. Really convenient. And it sounds really good.
Yeah, definitely a great one, that one.
What else? What else did you ask?
Just
plugin,
like gear in general. Instruments.
I mean, my guitar is...
Or like virtual instruments as well.
I don't know. I just use... like I said, I'm pretty boring. And what I'll usually do is just get Ableton's Analog or Wavetable or something like that, and just mangle it with a lot of plugins and process it. But I did get. I went on a shopping spree because of the discounts that they have during Christmas and whatnot. So I got Arturia's the big package that they have with all the plugins, with all the simulations and stuff. The Prophet is really great. They have some
really amazing shit in that.
The Prophet is really, really amazing. I have it in one of the songs that's coming out. It literally plays 2 chords in the entire song, but it sounds really great.
Cool. All right, man. I think that's all for today. Thanks for coming. Is there anywhere people can find you on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify? Instagram
@Verona Makes Noise. You can also just follow me @JLFGMS. I really need to change that handle because it's really stupid. That's it, really. My YouTube is kind of shut down because I actually, one of the things that I want to do is just create more video content. So that's kind of on hold. But yeah, right now, where stuff is happening is basically my personal profile and Verona Makes Noise.
Cool. I'll link all of those below, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Live long and prosper.